Welcome everyone to my next interview today. How you doing? It's Stephen here from Big Daddy Digital. It's Tea with Steve Live, and we're on the Heart Brand Session series, and it's been epic. We're doing this series because we are supporting the Unite on Purpose campaign. So type in any social media browser that you've got, Unite on Purpose. Look for that hashtag and look at the amazing things that are happening, because we're bringing businesses together across the entire globe, literally Australia, America, India, just places I don't even know, to be fair. But today and right now, my next guest is joining me all the way from Australia. The time difference we've had to work out, but you're gonna love this lady and her story. I'd like to bring on Danielle Cheil, because she is knitting the world together. Danielle, how you doing?
Hello, Stephen.
It's great.
My terrible Aussie accent with your beautiful British accent.
Now that's very, very kind. See, but I just think, it's the other way around for me. You know, I love accents. I love culture. I love where people come from. You know, it's so no, definitely not. I'm not agreeing with you on that one. Danielle, for people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you just give us a quick intro synopsis, and then I'm going to dive straight into your purpose?
Yeah, sure. So I own the business called Coco.
Yeah.
It stands for Knit One Garment, Change One Life. So I own a business that's in southern India, and for a living I go into rural villages where the ladies have never been to school before. And we take somebody who can knit and say, would you like to learn how to knit? And we can give you full-time work. So we have someone demonstrating, and they most of the time say yes. It's a very big decision for them to break generations of habits.
Okay.
You know, you'll laugh if I tell you one of the decisions that they make, and I call this a chapter in the book that I wrote, Who Will Walk the Goat?
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a really big decision, because that's how they earn their living, from selling the milk from the goat.
Yep.
And they're not prepared. Their thinking is not, I'm going to stop doing that and earn more money like this. They want both.
Right.
So when I first started this business, I spent a week brainstorming all the ways of what to do with their goats. No jokes aside.
Okay.
So I've grown the business over the last 6 years from that to employing 250 women across 5 villages. And we hand knit for fashion brands, boutique fashion brands all around the world.
Wow. And, you know, and I've got to say, it's not, you know, you say knit, it's not just knit. I mean, you produced, you know, when I say knit in the sense of the word, I think back to my nan. I mean, my mum taught me to knit when I was little. You know, and because I'm left-handed, I knitted backwards. But I've seen what you guys produce, and it's out of this world. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's, you know, the colors, the whole, you can see the comfy feel. I was looking at a post on your Instagram, not Instagram, Facebook, where there's a lady. She's got her her skirt on from India, and then she's got this big cardigan on. I was like, it's lush, and I'm like, I love that. You just show culture, you show quality, you show design and fashion. I'm like, this is beautiful. So tell us the story about these young ladies, because, you know, there's some real impactful stuff behind the scenes, isn't there?
Well, what goes on with these ladies is truly phenomenal. From that story that I told you about, Who Will Walk the Goat, to what's happened now, the change in the ladies is enormous. When I started the business, I started it from a very selfish point of view, really. I had a fashion brand that was hand knitted here in Australia. I had Australian knitters. The legislation changed in Australia, and it was not legal to employ contract workers in the fashion industry. As you're aware, that's impossible for a startup brand. And so I just thought, what am I going to do? So I investigated all countries, Vietnam, New Zealand, America, and I've just been lucky in this world. People have always introduced me to the right people at the right time, and somebody introduced me to somebody who was a Westerner who lived in southern India, and said, Danielle, I think this person might know some people who would like to knit. I think he could help you. Right. So I flew over to India, met the first 10 ladies who actually could knit, but knitting is a bit like an Olympic sport.
Okay.
So saying that you can knit is like saying I can run. You know, your nana can knit and I can run. We all can run. I put on joggers and I run to the end of the block, but I'm not a runner.
Yep.
And so because there's so much technique involved, people underestimate how much coaching and training goes on in having elite athletes. And it's no different for the knitters physically. You know, you have to sit like this and hold your finger like this and do this and do this and hone it in and move this finger here so you don't get RSI. You have to sit like this. So all that's a very, very honed skill.
Right.
In addition to their actual knitting skills, what they produce and all the techniques involved in hand knitting. And then we have to teach them how to read English because they have to read the patterns, and how to do maths. Obviously, knitting is what I call the thinking person's hobby or profession. These, you know, for these ladies, hand knitting is a trade like plumbing. And they have to think hard to do it. So I started all this for my own brand, but through this process, I fell in love with these ladies. They were just beautiful. They would hold my hand, take me to their home, introduce me to their family. And I thought the only way I can employ a lot of you. And I knew that I'd had wonderful opportunities in my life. I've led a very fortunate life with wonderful, wonderful opportunities. And I thought I can share many of my life experiences with these ladies to give them a boost up the ladder by more than one rung at a time. And the only way to do this was to employ a lot of them. And so to employ a lot of them, I had to knit for a lot of brands, not just mine.
Yep.
So I shut my brand down and got on the phone saying, hi, my name's Danielle. I own a company in India and we specialize in hand knitting. Would you like to add a hand knitted garment to your collection? And we've come a long way since those days. You know, I like to profess that we're actually the world's best hand knitting unit. And these ladies are fantastic.
So what impact has that had on these ladies, you know, their families? Because I could, you know, from my limited knowledge of, India and men and women and families and children, and even just down to walking the goat, which you've just taught me, that must have had a huge impact on the family equilibrium.
It's huge. It's huge. The ladies that have been with me from the very beginning have gone from living in a thatched roof, hardened mud floor hut to actually a house with cement and tiled floors and hot water and electricity. I mean, the ladies have totally upgraded. In addition to that, every village we enter, we break the education, financial cycle 100%, and we make a fairly significant dent in the domestic violence cycle as well.
Now that's where I wanted to go, because we'd had a conversation about this, and ex-policeman's head on now. I've seen so much trauma. I've seen so much trauma in that arena. And when you mentioned that to me, we were talking a few weeks ago, and I was just like, there's power there. And you do it in a different. It's not what you do is, with the processes and the support of the ladies, is not conventional domestic violence support at all. And I'd love to hear about it. How can we learn from that and bring it into the rest of the world?
Well, it's the way that I role model for the ladies to learn to think.
Okay.
So India is traditionally a very hierarchical society.
Yeah.
And they basically have never developed any what I call self-thinking skills. So when you're growing up, you do what your parents say. There's not a lot of freedom of thought there. You've got to do this. You've got to help me with the laundry. You've got to scrub they did the washing of their sari on the rocks. They've got to, help with this, cook the dinner, do this, do that. And some of the ladies have been to school for age 6, 7, and 8. Okay. And so when they go to school, you have to do what your parents want you. The teacher does. Sit down, get the pen, do this. It's like my mother. Yeah, it's like the old-fashioned British education. They get it from the British. It's the old-fashioned British rigid education system.
Yeah.
And so this is how they went, and then they get married from a very young age, and
Right.
all the marriages are arranged marriages. So they find that they're told who to marry. There's actually never any thinking skills they have to do. They're told who to marry, and then once they're married, the husband tells them what to do. I'm hungry, get my dinner, do this, do that. So they come to me with very, very limited decision-making skills.
Okay.
So from the day that I first meet them, I built this whole business on a series of opposites.
Okay.
Yes, no, up, down, knit, purl, back, front, right, wrong, same, different.
Wow.
That held me in good stead for 2 years.
Yeah.
And we all knew what those words meant. So I would knit something and they would knit something, same or different. And that's the first time in their life they ever had to make a decision.
Wow.
It's different. And then they wanted me to show them how to fix it up. What do I do now? And I don't interfere. It's like, so what are you going to do? It must be the same as mine. What are you going to do?
Right.
So from the very beginning, their independence of thinking or thought, since they started working with me, was strong.
Yeah.
We promoted from within.
Okay.
And so they quickly learnt to speak the same way. God help them. I've produced 250 families just like me and mine. It's like when they went home to their husbands, no, right or wrong.
Oh, dear.
You know, this is not okay. So if they tried it out on me, they'd copy the way that I would do it.
Okay.
So they learned. This is how we broke the domestic violence cycle.
Fantastic.
So these ladies were given groups of other ladies to lead after a couple of years.
Okay.
They were in groups. We promoted from within. So as they worked their way up, or more to the point, I don't like using this hierarchical even work their way up, but as they got more experienced in what I call team leadership communication, if we're going to use Western jargon, they transferred these skills to their home.
Fantastic.
You know, as I purport, these ladies aren't schizophrenic. So if you learn a certain skill and it becomes ingrained in your personality type, that's the way it works. So when they're home, if their children act out, I'm like, at work, do you start smacking the ladies and tell them it's unacceptable? No, Danielle. So how do you tell them at work? So why don't you tell your husband the same thing when it's unacceptable? Ah!
that was a light bulb moment.
Yes.
So where have you brought so from, you know, empowering, you know, 250 women in India, you know, what happened next? You know, where have you taken this?
COVID came.
Yeah.
So basically to keep these ladies engaged all the time, we're not an NGO. We are a for-profit business, which makes it a socially responsible, fully sustainable business.
Okay.
And it's my job to make sure that they have garments, scarves, items, merchandising, anything that's hand-knitted, enough to keep them all engaged all the time. That's my job. And if I can't do that, fire me. I've failed. That's my job.
You know what? I love the honesty there, because that's a real. There'll be people, lots of people in business watching this from varying different degrees of, you know, experience, you know, sort of ages they've been in jobs, or, you know, employment, or going self-employed, or entrepreneurship, and all of these buzzwords that are about. But the fact is, we're very similar in that respect. Is if you don't get the job done, if you don't get your job done to support X, Y, and Z, and if I don't get my job done to support X, Y, and Z, then yeah, fire me. You know, yes, I own my business, but actually my business is to serve these people over here. And you've said the same. You know, your job, your role is to serve these people to produce X, Y, and Z. And if you're not doing it, so I just want to acknowledge that, because it's a huge respect, because a lot of people will go, yeah, we understand that things aren't working and we can change and adapt and this, that, and the other. But if it comes to it, I don't know many business owners that will take that level of responsibility. There'll be another way round, or they'll. I hate it when people pass the buck and doing the hierarchical thing, push it down the line, and someone else is the fall guy, and people don't take responsibility for what their role is. So thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. Well, things do go wrong.
Yeah,
and we do have to adapt and morph.
Yeah.
But the question we always ask is, what can we do differently?
Yeah.
So, we are a fantastic team of knitters. We do produce amazing garments. And I'd be lying to you if I said we haven't produced some stuff-ups along the way as well.
Okay.
And when that happens, like in all businesses, it happens. Nobody is perfect. Thank God we just get a lot more right than we do get wrong. But when these hiccups do occur, I adopt that same thinking. So we engage the ladies, the knitters, the translators. This is what the customer said. This is what we delivered. What could we have done differently?
I love it.
So again, they have to think and produce the solutions themselves. It doesn't come from me. So it's the way I run the whole thing of a group brainstorming for solving problems.
So this is where I was then trying to lead you nicely into, and you did it beautifully, was if you could give something to the people watching and listening now in their own businesses, what would it be that would help them? The one thing that they could take away from this interview and say, okay, if I did this, it's going to make an impact.
Oh, that's such a hard question, because when I answer that, my style is not to impose my style on other people. They have to work what works best for them. This is just my style, and this is what's worked best for my team. That the ladies know that I would walk on hot coals for them. They would walk on hot coals for me. So what I can say is, by adopting this style of brainstorming, it's given a clear message that we're all in it equally together. Okay. When they hurt, I hurt. If I'm hurting, they are hurting, because everybody is equally important along the process. None of us are more important than the others. If I couldn't sell, they have no work. If they can't produce it, I can't earn a living. So we're all equally important there. And what this has created is very, very strong staff loyalty. Very strong and productive staff loyalty.
That wasn't hard to answer. You nailed it.
That's my style. What you want to do, that's your business.
Exactly. And people don't have to adopt it, but I want you to share something, because your style might be someone else's thinking, but they're not put into action because they're afraid. And
happy to have a chat with them if they want to be coached or whatever. We have a reduced income now because of COVID. I'm not backwards and coming forwards to say I'm happy to share that money with the ladies if they want me to coach them.
Awesome. And so if there's anybody out there watching who would like to have a conversation with Danielle and get some support and understand Danielle's style, then please let me know. Send me a direct message, throw it in the comments, and we'll help that. We'll follow that up. So what's the big vision? What's the purpose and the drive? Where do you want to get the business to, but also to bring, where do you want to get these ladies to? What the whole family of Coco, where do you want to bring it to?
Well, I'm a big vision person. And everybody asks me a similar question. What's my mission? So my mission is to hand knit the world together at a fundamental level. But I'm a real believer in artisan products. I don't believe that human beings should be used as a human unit of labor, when I'm not a supporter of conveyor belt processes. They're necessary for many things, but as much as possible, that artisan unit should happen. So it is my vision to, the analogy that you've heard me use before is with organic food. So, 5 years ago, if I went into a supermarket, the only organic product that was available was organic eggs.
Right.
And through the years, they've gradually increased the number of organic products. There's organic vegetables that go for 2 aisles. There's organic meats that go for 1 aisle. Now there's organic nuts and organic herbs that go for one aisle. It's growing and growing. And so with artisan products and people knowing how they're made and consumers crying out for that visibility, I believe that the artisan products are going the same way. So that's my mission. But the ladies love their work so much and what they've achieved. Contrary to popular belief in the world that the staff and the leaders have to have the same vision, we're different, like all things in life. Their vision is slightly different to mine, but I'm very supportive of their vision. Their vision is to become the largest all-girls company in the world from ladies who have never been to school. So hopefully, I'm 100% sure we will achieve that. We just had a massive hiccup because of COVID. It's hit us hard, very hard. The business is shut down practically. We only have 20 ladies out of 250 working.
Wow.
And that doesn't support anybody. It doesn't support them. It doesn't support me. But, I'm determined not to close the business down, because if we can see through this, we're very strong and we will continue going. But that's where we're at.
So I'd like to put now a real big shout out. If there's anybody out there who wants to have a conversation with Danielle, because she's got an amazing purpose. She's got these amazing ladies behind her. Actually, not behind her, alongside her. So I want to correct myself on that. And doing great things, combating domestic violence, bringing these ladies into, education and, building a company with and for these ladies. I think there's anyone out there, please press the share button, get this into pages, get it into direct messages. If business leaders and things like that, myself and Danielle are both on the L&D program with the guys at Bob. So if anyone from Bob watching, press that share button, get it over into somebody, get it in front of somebody's nose that can make a difference and support and collaborate and come together on it. Because I think what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very, very humbled to have you on here today.
Thank you. We knit, I'm just going to be cheeky and drop a big hint. We knit all sorts of things. We don't just knit fashion garments. That will knit merchandise. We knit Christmas decorations, bed socks, hot water bottle covers, tea cozies. If real estate agents want to give, tea cozies for people who want to buy houses, anything that's hand knitted, we'll produce it for you.
I love that.
I guess any corporate business who want to come on board, I'm dropping a big hint. So it's not just for fashion people.
Do it. Why not? Why not? And I think, and it's great the fact that you've identified that you have a skill set and you have ladies who are supporting you, within the company, and you understand you're a business as well. That it's a time to pivot. It's a time to make those changes. So many businesses are actually falling by the wayside because they're not prepared to do that. What they're doing is they're hunkering down and holding on and thinking they're going to ride this storm out for the next 18 months, whether you're actually being very practical about it and saying, you know what, we need some change and we've got the ability to pivot. And I know it's a word that's been used by the world, but actually there's not a lot of the world are doing it.
Yeah, so we've adapted in a few ways. We've got that whole merchandise range. We've got a direct-to-consumer range. So in the first 2 months of lockdown, India is still on lockdown. So if somebody in your street gets COVID, the whole street is locked down for 2 weeks. Wow. So we never know who's going to show up on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But for the first few months, what we did is the ladies who could come to one of the buildings out of the 5 that we had, we allowed them to come to work, and we're a certified B Corp. So we're a no wastage business. Okay. Yeah. And just for your interest, hand knitted garments are the only garments that you can wear that don't use electricity in the construction of the garment. It's all by hand. So it's the most wholesome, sustainable garment construction that one can possibly have. But what we did is, because we're no wastage, we've collected all the scraps of yarn that we've ever had that's 15 centimeters or longer. And during lockdown, we knotted all these ends together, and we've made these garments. They're on our website, koco.global, and they're made out of the scrap yarns. And that's what we use to keep the ladies who could come to work busy during those severe lockdown times.
And I must admit, they do look stunning. They really are. They look gorgeous. They really, really do. And the fact that you've thought, okay, initiative. What can we do instead of bringing a problem and stewing with this problem? You say, okay, well, there's a problem. We know what the problem is. What's my solution? And
well, that comes back to our brainstorming model that we've had, and it just comes second nature to me, what I call very strong lateral thinking skills, and I've developed the same in the ladies that I work with. So, we've had a hiccup, what are we going to do now? So we brainstorm, what can we do? We've got some threads, what do you want to do? So that's the brainstorming model that the whole business and I just operate on all the time. So there's no such thing as getting stuck.
It's really interesting what you said as well about being a B corporation. Is I was we had a guest on Lindsay's LB Presents last night, and it was it was Gina Muller, and she's from the L&D, and they're just registered as a B Corp as well. And there's a, you know, she said to me, write this down and Google this because it would fit with what you do with regards to Heart Brand and Big Daddy. I'm like, okay, so we're going to have a look at that. But I'm just thinking, isn't it? What if we could? So a Lindsay Boyd moment. What if we could pull the B Corp businesses together to impact something? The people
that
who
are on the L&D program.
That or that are watching, or there's going to be people out there I don't know are B Corps. So how can we bring these together? And if there are more on the L&D program, how can we bring that? Let's have that conversation. Say, what can we do? Because it's all purpose led. It's all at another level. Let's see what we can do there.
Well, B Corp businesses are intrinsically, their thinking is businesses who do business for good.
Yep.
And there's lots of really big businesses out there, registered certified B Corps in America, Unilever, and small ones as well, little boutique ones. It's a certifiable, auditable thing, and the process of becoming certified is no mean feat.
So I hear.
I guess a lot of people complain it takes them many, many months, and I guess that's why I live so comfortably in that space, because when I realised what it is, you can always up the ante, and everybody can always improve what they do. There's no questions about that. But in the scheme of life, I just looked at it and I'm like, this is a no-brainer because we don't have to change anything. Like, we don't use any electricity in the making of the garment. We have no water. There is no wastage. So the Indian part of our business is a certified B Corp.
I love it. Danielle, thank you ever so much for joining me today on the Heart Brand sessions. I'm very, 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 very grateful.
Thank you. And I love listening to all your other interviews. They're fantastic, Stephen. Keep going. They're great. Thanks a million.
Thank you ever so much. I'm really, really grateful for that. And yeah, we will absolutely keep going because we're here to make an impact in the world.
Thanks, Stephen.
My pleasure. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. How inspiring was that story to go through sort of, on the building a business, the brand, taking it to another country and inspiring hundreds of women to live life on their own terms, I suppose, and to make an impact in education and in their families, and to hear the story of knitting the world together and then being a B Corp. And actually, it's business for good. Is that something that you could do? Is that something that you could consider? Say, okay, do you know what? All our business is going to generate something for good. It's going to have a positive impact in the world. Communicate a kinder world. It's something that I learned about over the last few days, and I'm reflecting on. And I'm sure that through the end of this interview series at 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be sat there with my Guinness, like I said I would, be reflecting, sat in the garden, taking all of the stuff that's gone on, and all the questions that I've asked, and the answers that we've got, and the things that have been shared, and the great comments that have popped up. Because do you know what? We are here to impact 1 billion lives, to make an absolute positive impact in the world. So, my friends, please press the share button. Get these interviews over into pages, into people's direct messages. Click on the link above and learn what it is to be, a purpose-led brand. We're launching the Heart Brand Academy on Monday, and it's a way for you to get some more information about it and have a conversation. And you heard Jason in a previous interview about the impact that Tea with Steve has had on him, and you heard from Danielle through collaborating on different programs, what it's meant to her business. So, my friends, I will see you very, very soon. Have an amazing day. If you can't join me for the rest of the day on the interviews, then catch them on the replay. They will be here on Facebook, YouTube, and over on Periscope. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you soon.